Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Tony the Mole Adams YouTube channel. Now, there's a bit of background to this show. Well, actually, I had a background last week, and this week, Tony's got a background. Have a look at it, everybody. Check it out. Awesome. Awesome. So this week, instead of focusing on getting my green screen done, I tried to get my mic sorted, but I don't have the right cable. So I wasn't able to do that. So this mic is just for show. I'm laying my cards on the table there. This mic's just a show. But we do have another new gimmick this week. We have actually an interview, a very short one, a bit of a grab. But I went up to Huddersfield yesterday and they had a bunch of new signings there, like Tommy Burgess, like Zach Wolford, son of Simon. And also like this fellow who just came straight from the airport, Taane Milne. You know him as a Fiji international, played at South, played at the Dragons. And he is, it was cold up there yesterday. It was a bit dark, but he's got something else on his mind as he explained to us.
Family comes first. Obviously, I've got a pregnant fiance back home in Sydney, and he just said, do what you got to do, before you get over here, and we'll sort you out, help you out, and with the birth of my first child, and obviously have the baby back there, and then once it's safe enough, a few months I think, and then get her over here and get it all settled in. So really excited for that.
So there you go, Tony. A bit of a different situation, joining a new club on the other side of the world, and his fiancée is pregnant in Sydney. So sounds like the club's going to encourage him to go back for the birth at the end of January. But tough thing for a young man to go through.
Yeah, and I imagine it'll be very tough getting back on the plane coming over to your part of the world in the UK. And the cynic in me might suggest could be a very short stint over there.
Oh, Tony, don't say that. Don't say that. He only arrived yesterday. Jesus Christ. Okay. Okay. Let's get on with your column. And don't forget, you can read Tony's column at 9.com.au, and there's a link in the show descriptions. And we've been following this story right from the beginning, as we have a number of things that have, like Reece Robson, a few other stories that have really, John Bateman, a few things that have really come home to roost, no pun intended, in recent days and weeks. And here's a fellow we've been following right from the start, this gun from Newcastle, Leo Thompson, and he's your lead this week. What's the latest with him?
Yeah, well, he's probably the most sought-after player left on the market for 2026, Leo Thompson. And, of course, he told the Knights only in the last few days that he's not going to be staying at the club. So one would think he's got a club in mind, and there were a few clubs in there. The Raiders were mentioned very strongly, particularly it's come out the last few days that his partner comes from Canberra, so that gives the Raiders an ace up their sleeve. My story was basically along the lines of he met with the Bulldogs, but it sort of talks never progressed to the point where money was discussed, where contracts were discussed. So everyone thought the Bulldogs were the real fit for him, but it looks like that's not going to be. But there are other clubs still involved. The Eels have been mentioned, the Dolphins, and wouldn't surprise me if the Roosters made a sneaky little bit. Let's not forget they've lost big Jared Waerea-Hargreaves to your part of the world, and they've also lost Terrell May. That's a lot of firepower gone, and when you've got a guy like Leo Thompson on the market and the money that the Roosters have, you'd be silly not to go for him.
Talking about this part of the world, that part of the world being Hull and Yorkshire, Tom Opacic has a new home, Tony. That's the next item in your wonderful column, which once more I encourage everyone to read.
Yeah, that's right. And it's ironic because Tom was born and raised in Redcliffe and he signed with the Dolphins. Now, of course, when he grew up, there was no Dolphins as in the NRL franchise. So he moved to the Broncos. Since then, he's been to the Cowboys, Eels, and, of course, Hull KR. But now he's back to where it all began at the age of 30. A good signing for the Dolphins, and probably won't start the year in first grade, but I reckon he'll rack up a few games before the season's over.
Clint Gutherson, is he moving into the forwards with his move to the Dragons, Tony?
Well, we keep hearing rumours along those lines, but I've got a spy in the Dragons camp, and he says he's been training exclusively at fullback. And that, of course, leaves the question of Tyrell Sloan. Will he be the fullback in New South Wales Cup? No, he won't be. He's been training on the wing, and with his speed and evasive skills, and if he can get someone to come up with Ben Hunt's 32 try assists, you'll be scoring a few tries. But the big question in Dragons Town is who's going to fill that void. So I'm not sure he's going to score that many tries, Tyrell Sloan, but he's certainly got the makings of a good finisher.
Now, if you've never watched this channel before, you wouldn't be aware that we pride ourselves on being the first place you hear about young rugby league players. And your final item in your column, Tony, is about a fella called Eli Clark. Tell us all about Eli Clark.
Yeah, well, Eli played one game for the Bulldogs this year, and he looked all right. But the Bulldogs have got a lot of outside backs, and they've let Eli look around, and a few clubs are talking to him. I'm hearing he's going to stay in Sydney probably. He's a 22-year-old centre, plenty of pace. Don't be surprised if he's down St George or Cronulla way, without naming names, of course.
Awesome. Well, as I keep saying, don't just stumble across this column every week. Let us advise you when a new show is posted. Subscribe. Costs nothing. Subscribe. And don't forget to read Tony's column. And next week, I'm going to try to combine two magic tricks. We might have a mic that works. We might have an interview, or we might have a backdrop and a mic, or we might have an interview and a backdrop. I'm not going to try for 3 next week. We might try for 2. Tony, I love your backdrop. It's awesome. And it's like that old TV show, Time Tunnel. You remember that show?
I do. It was one of my favourites back in the 70s.
So we'll talk to you next week, Tony. Merry Christmas to everyone, all the viewers.
Yeah, have a great Christmas, New Year, guys, and we'll keep going right the way through, won't we, Steve?
We will. We will.